Hi class, this presentation will help you understand a new assignment that we're about to do, understanding the rubric project. The rubric project is worth 10% of your grade. A draft is due April 21st and a final is due April 28th. And basically, you're going to work to create a rubric for some performance task. Let's get started. Everything I'm about to show you is, as always, located in the assignments folder under the rubric project folder. You'll see the instructions and template that we're going to work through. You'll see the grading rubric and you'll see the link to submit. First of all, the instructions. You're to complete the template below and upload it to the link in the assignments folder as a draft by April 21st. Revise and resubmit based on feedback you receive by April 28th. So first of all, you need to select a standards. So go back to the standards folder on the course homepage and select one appropriate for your grade level of certification. So if you're early childhood, don't select a high school standard, for example. Then you're going to write the standard, its number, and the entirety of its words below. Don't simply type the number because I have to be able to look back and see if your work is aligned with the standard, and I can't do that if it's just a number. The next thing you're going to do, as we've done before, is to think of one learning target that aligns with the standard. And this should be a learning target that can be assessed with a performance task. So it should require the students to do something, write an essay, complete math problems, do a musical solo, do a skit, do anything that requires a performance rather than just a selected response like multiple choice. You're going to write the learning target and you're going to remember to include a target. What level will students have to come up to for you to consider that they've mastered the standards? 80% accuracy, for example, 3 out of 5, whatever it is, there should be a target. Then you're going to write very briefly a context where your lesson will be taught. What grade level, how many students are in the class, are there any gifted students or students with disabilities, similar to what you did for the EdTPA? What's the subject? What have students been taught so far about the topic and what might comes next? So your goal here is just to provide a brief description of the context so that when I'm reading it, I have some sense of about what the class is like and what's about to happen in the lesson, where they've been and what you're about to teach. And then in a paragraph or two, describe the lesson. So this doesn't have to be in a lot of detail, but it should be, again, something that's aligned with your standard and learning target and that can be assessed through a performance task. So number 5 is an important step. Think of a performance task the students might do to demonstrate they have mastered the learning target. Remember that a performance task is something students do as opposed to something that they know. It is not measured with a multiple choice, true, false. Examples of performance tasks include writing essays, developing PowerPoints, writing poetry, solving math problems, and more. They must perform. And so then you're going to describe the performance task. So let's say you've taught a unit, you're teaching a unit on American history and colonial America, and you have 5th grade students, and you want them to demonstrate their knowledge. Then after they could design maybe a PowerPoint, and that's a performance task. It's not something that's just about knowledge. They have to perform and do something with that knowledge. So that is going to be the performance task in that example. The last thing you have to do is to select a rubric. So you should select the type of rubric that you will use to score the task. It can be a holistic or an analytic rubric. but you should think about the justifications because you're going to have to write about that next. Your textbook has some really good justifications about when you could use either type of rubric. Develop the rubric. I find it's easiest to develop rubrics by inserting word tables and using the rows and columns rather than trying to space out, because if you do it without a table, your spacing is going to be off and it's going to be very difficult to read, and I might have to send it back and ask you to reformat it. Your rubric should be well suited to the task and grade level. So it should be something that students can understand at their grade level, or you can explain it to them. The criteria and levels of performance are appropriate and clear. So again, just like we're doing in the assignments this week and next, you need to think about what would be the best example of that assignment. So if it's the PowerPoint, for example, what would the best PowerPoint have in it? And you make a list of those things. So you might say, for example, good PowerPoints have fonts that are readable. Good PowerPoints have um, engaging, lively pictures. So you make a list of all the criteria that go into a good assignment, and then decide on your levels of performance. So are you going to have 3 or 4 or 5? What are you going to call those levels? Are you going to call them good, excellent, for example? And then you have to make sure that you describe each level in the cell of the table. Many good examples are in your textbook. Criteria that are well aligned with objectives and standards. Descriptions of criteria are teachable, clear, identifiable, and measurable. The continuum between levels of performance are clear and appropriate. And the rubric is well aligned with the task. So you're going to put your rubric there. Finally, you're going to write a justification that supports your choice for the rubric. State whether your rubric is analytic or holistic, and why you chose this type of rubric. Use the textbook and/or other readings to support your reasoning. You must select one or more arguments using the textbook and cite the textbook appropriately to receive full credit. So if I don't see a citation from the textbook, you won't get full credit on this section. Also included in the folder is the grading rubric. And here you see the grading rubric, which is, you can see the sections that I just talked about: standard, learning target, context, lessons, performance tasks. And I just want to make clear this is the grading rubric for the rubric project, so it's a little confusing. But this is a good example of a rubric. You can see the criteria listed down the left side. You can see the levels. I have 3 levels: 0, missing or needs improvement; 1 is fair, or 2 is excellent. So if you only write the number for the standard, you're going to get 1 point for that, because look at the middle column, standard is indicated only by a number. If you do an excellent job with the learning target, it will be extremely clear, unmistakably measurable, and specific to the standard, so you'll get 2 points for that. This is an analytic rubric because every criterion is broken out separately. So if I were you, I would print this rubric or have it up on my screen and write, and then assess my own project with this rubric. You can see how it will be graded. You need to have clear rubric criteria. It needs to be aligned to the task. You need to have justification for your type of rubric. And you need to have good, as always, good spelling, grammar, and professionalism. So that explains the project. Again, the draft is due April 21st. You can find the link in the assignments folder, and the final is due April 28th. And as always, please feel free to email me with any questions.